mute my mic. She's like whining like crazy. So all like two of you that were here got to see Shani briefly before she was like, no more. I do not want to be held anymore. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you. Talking about you. People like to see you. Silly dog. Oh, man. All right. So only a few minutes late, right? I literally like got home and built my stream as fast as possible. Hence why the topic is very simple. We're going to talk about FishtoberFest a little bit, but uh, let's talk about other news real fast. So last weekend for me was not so great, kind of scary. My dad ended up in the hospital, and at first they were worried it was a tear in one of his arteries somewhere between the heart and his neck. Just based on his symptoms and some of the like really early diagnostic tests. So we got transferred from the smaller ER to a much larger hospital that is not terribly far away. I mean, it is with traffic in the Seattle area, but as far as ambulance transfers, not so bad. Thankfully, not a tear, so they didn't have to operate. But they basically they thought he had a combination of like a small clot and maybe like a kink or something else applying pressure to one of his arteries up here in his neck, right behind the carotid, which is a different artery, not the carotid itself, but one that sits behind the carotid. So difficult to operate on. Only way for just joining my dad. We're talking about my dad. So needless to say, I got a call Sunday at like 11:15 in the morning, and it's like I'm watching the Seahawks game, and my dad's wife calls and tells me he's in the hospital, and it was just okay, where am I going? I spent a good portion of the day with my dad. Thankfully, between medication and stuff, he's okay, but he'll be on. It's like a lot of people when you have anything that happens like that, it's very common to end up on blood thinners for a while, even if you don't normally have blood pressure problems. But he's home now, so that's good. But just heck of a scare. I will be honest, it took me probably 45 minutes to kind of gather myself, because my dad has always been this guy who's seemingly invincible. I've almost never seen that man truly hurt. Even when he had some surgery at one point, he was still doing stuff that you wouldn't expect as soon as he did after surgery. So yeah, heck of a weekend. See, really made my Monday. I got 2.5 hours of sleep Sunday night, and I went in and did a full day of work yesterday, and I was kind of a zombie, but also kind of running weird adrenaline high. I don't know any other way to put it. I felt tired, but my brain was so wired, waiting for the next text or phone call telling me an update and things like that. Little rough. So the story behind that is call your loved ones, tell them you love them. If you can see them in person, see them in person. Give them a hug. You just never know, right? And if you happen to know anybody that works in the medical profession, it's often a thankless job. Give them a thank you from me, please, because without wonderful medical staff, who knows what could have happened, right? And modern medicine just keeps getting crazier and crazier in the sense of what it can do that we could not do previously. So good things there. But yeah, we'll talk about the actual topic now instead of me babbling about my bad weekend. So yeah, I've gone to every year of Fishtoberfest. I've spoken at one Fishtoberfest. And I mean, this is the fourth year now. Doing the mental math real fast, making sure that's correct in my head. Yeah, fourth year now. And it used to be in October itself, so second weekend of October. Now it's in tail end of September. But part of that was just like competing with other conventions that have like shifted their schedules to occur in October, which kind of limited people who might potentially travel and some other things. So they made some adjustments. But anyway, it's the what is that, 27th? I have to look at a calendar. My brain is so like from this weekend. 27th, 28th, and 29th. And realistically, like most of the interesting stuff will be the 28th and 29th. But yeah, I'm gonna go down. I think my goal is to go down Saturday morning. I don't know how well I'm gonna feel after like a full day of work Friday if I want to like make the haul down there Friday night. I basically need to figure that out and book a room like this week. But I will be there Saturday regardless for some amount of time, and at least one day I will spend the night so that I'm not just down there and leaving almost immediately because that would have to happen if I was just doing a day trip. But yeah, what can I say? There's a lot of good speakers that are lined up for it. And it might not be as crazy as say like Keystone Clash's speaker lineup or an Aquashello where you'll get a lot of the big YouTubers. I know that Dr. Mazerall from the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fishes is going to be speaking, and I think he's doing kind of like a tag team presentation, if I remember right, with Dr. Lucas. Hold on, I'm trying to look up the speaker lineup real fast. I'm sure somebody else actually knows, and they would be more efficient than me, but what do you do, right? Let's see here. Oh, yeah, not Dr. Lucas, but Dr. Eric Thomas. I don't know why I think about Eric Lucas, who's a shrimp person. But Lawrence Kent, who's from my club, he always gives wonderful talks. Lee Newman is going to be there for those who know her, and for him rather. And I was looking at the next person, and it said her on a her male. Feel bad. I guess don't assume, right? And then Barbie Fiorentino. Can't pronounce things worth beans right now. My brain is really fried. Last 2 days have been a little rough. I'll just put it that way. As far as like, my brain's still kind of in a weird. It hasn't felt right until like this afternoon, just knowing that my dad got home okay. But it was like, it's all kind of talked about. But that's Pleco Barbie. If you've ever heard that nickname, she's actually really awesome and a great speaker. Obviously, as the name should ensue, she's a Pleco specialist, but she knows about like all of them. She's really, really amazing. She's been breeding Plecos forever. She's actually probably the talk I'm second most interested about. I love watching Dr. Mazerall speak, so I'll probably try and make sure I can see whenever he's speaking. But yeah. So good list of speakers. The thing that I love, and I've said this I think every year, the thing that I love the most about Fishtoberfest is even though it's grown a little bit, it's still a really nice like small show. There's a good size vendor room, and vendor should be in like quotation marks because most of the vendors are like small hobbyist run things and only a few businesses. It's not like Aquashello where it's lots of big trade booths and you've got like a lot of big companies there. You might have like one or two reasonable sized companies there, but most of the rest is going to be local breeders, maybe people who have a small online business or whatever. And I think that's kind of the cool part because you often can get some really insane deals while you're down there, but just you get to talk with locals. And for the folks that do go, because it's such a, in comparison to something like an Aquashella or even maybe Keystone Clash, because they've been growing so much, it's just such a like intimate environment that you get an opportunity to like really sit and talk with people. you get those big shows, and like you're lucky if you can get like 5 minutes with some of the people that are there, because there's just so many people moving through, and everybody wants to talk to, whether it's like Corey or KG Tropicals folks or any of your larger YouTubers that would show up, right? Now, granted, those those folks aren't going to show up to like Fishtoberfest yet. Who knows? Maybe in the future they would. But if you get like people like Alex Williamson will often go down, chuckleheads like me that go down. You've got, like, of course, Danikin Aquatics, so Danny and Kenny are both going to be there. They're going to have a booth selling their fish. I like Hector, who's in chat, is going to be there. He's been there, I think it's your third year now, isn't it, Hector? Right? I think I've got that right, because I think your first year was when I was speaking, and that's when we first met. But anyway, it's the cool part about Fishtoberfest is it is such like a chill, relaxed environment. There's a really good vendor room when it comes to like local breeders, especially a lot of the people out of the Portland Club. But there are some people that also travel down a little bit farther and bring quite a lot of really interesting stuff. You get lots of guppies and plecos, but you also get like shrimp breeders and plant folks, and you get a number of different interesting things. Nathan, chat's not broken. It is a little slow. You might have to reload if you're not seeing any chat whatsoever. But yeah, it's a little quiet. I'm babbling. We're not in a question and answer quite yet. Some of the loud people might have thought I wasn't going to make it because I started streaming like 6:04 or something. Traffic is a thing. And more importantly, I was, working on something, and I was trying to get out as early as possible. But yeah, stuff happens. But yeah, I think that's the nice thing. I would say if you were going, and I got this. I know I'm a little scrambled. I apologize, but I talk about it being more intimate, and I got that feedback from a number of people that had said, after I said, like, no, it's more chill than what you think a convention's going to be. So if you're worried about too many people, go to Fishtoberfest. And there was I remember this distinctly, the year that I spoke, and it's grown since then, but it's, it's not like really insane. It's still manageable, I think is the way I'd want to put it, in the sense that it's not like there's so many people that you feel like you're constantly crushed in and a little claustrophobic and stuff. There was this lovely gal who brought her kid with her, and she'd said, I saw you talking about this last year, and that's why I decided to come this year. Because it was more relaxed, and I didn't want to go to something that was too busy or too hectic, because I want something that's more easy, and I can actually like talk to the vendors for a reasonable amount of time and ask questions on the things I want to buy, and and meet the people who are doing, whether they're speaking or just who are here. And I think that still rings true, because even when I went last year, which is their biggest year yet, and this year should, in theory, grow a little bit more and be even bigger, it was still really easy to sit and talk with people. I could go to Rob and Ree as an example from Shrimp Envy, before they moved out of the Portland area. I get to just sit and talk with them, and it was really easy for one or the other to go help a customer, but for the other person to be able to sit and engage and talk, and for us to have 15, 20 minutes to just say hi and see how we're doing. And in my case, like, I'm always asking like how their business is doing, because I think they run a phenomenal business. I love them to death. They're some of the nicest people in the world, and the fact that they were able to kind of like Nick from Shrimpy Business go away from their normal career and make shrimp their livelihood is something I think is just super cool, right? And people that get the opportunity to do that and then find success, I want to give them as much love as I ever can. Which, speaking of Nick from Shrimpy Business, I don't think that video will be out this weekend, because it's gonna take a lot of editing work. But yeah, man, I got to go see his new place, and it's pretty rad. I'm so thrilled for him and his wife, because they're kind of a 2-person show right now. But they'll talk about that. I'll let the video kind of explain everything, but we did a nice interview and then kind of a tour of their facility. And I think I want to keep it all in one video. Because I feel like if I did two, I'll get people in the comments that are like, how come you're not doing this in the next and blah, 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 you know, or whatever that might be. Yeah. Aquarium domain. Thought you were going to 10 p.m. EST. I haven't made that decision yet. I was able to get home close enough to my regular start time, so I just started like a few minutes late. But yeah, maybe that's gonna that's gonna mess with people. John Ebsen, I wish Shrimpy Business had local pickup. So we actually directly addressed that in the video, and the short answer is temporarily they do not. Their goal is to make it possible to do local pickup in the future, but because it's only the husband and wife, Nick and Gwen, between the amount of work they need to do naturally, it's really hard to do local pickup as well. But their goal is to actually hire someone relatively soon, and we talk about this a bit more in depth in the video. To hire someone or someone's potentially relatively soon, and look at expanding that after those people are like really trained up and spooled up and know what they're doing, to make it possible to let locals go local pick up their orders and save on some shipping, which is really cool. But I mean, you know, as an example, like I was talking to him about trade shows and I mentioned FishtoberFest, and he was kind of like, yeah, you know, because we're only two people, when we start hiring people, we might think about doing a few more local shows, especially because, you know, we just want to meet people. We'd love to meet some of our customers if they're local and stuff like that. And, you know, it was one of those things where it's like, because there'd been a 2-person business, and for a while they were like a, you know, 0.5 person business because Nick was using his normal job. I know I'm trying to circle back and get off my tangent. Forgive me. But yeah, I think that's the nice part about like small shows, is that there is that knowledge that because there's not just like 5,000 people or something wild and crazy like that, you get an opportunity to sit and really talk with people. I remember last year, there was a guy who had a insane deal on leopard frog pluckos, and I started going around the room because I didn't have a good place to put them at the time. Otherwise, I would have bought them. And I started going around the room talking to people and talking them up. And someone eventually went over and was like, hey, Bentley mentioned you got this really good deal on leopard frog pluckos and bought them. But it just shows, like, you know, people like me can go around and have all the time in the world to talk. And, you know, like, as an example, last year, I sat down for Dr. Mazeral's presentation. I sat with John Ebsen, who's in chat, and we kind of we talked a little bit before the presentation started. We let it start. We watched, we enjoyed, and then afterward, we talked some more because there's the time and space to do that. And that's one of the things I love the most about smaller shows, even to the size of like Keystone Clash, because Keystone Clash is significantly bigger, especially in footprint. I mean, they have a massive area where they get to do their convention. It's amazing, but it's still at a chill enough pace over the time that it's running that, like, being able to sit and talk. I mean, that's how I got to know Jeremy from Aquarium Domain really well, right? We just sat and talked a ton while we were there, right? And it's like, you know, you get to forge these like really cool friendships, or like, you know, getting to meet and talk to Hecker. Hecker, good Lord. I told you, I can't speak English. It's just an assumption that I can, because occasionally the brain and mouth coordinate and form actual words and not just like weird noises. Unless I'm trying to conflate my friend Hector with Johnny Hecker, the punter. Oh, I should just kick myself out now, right? Good Lord. But like, you know, I got to meet like Hector and Luke Wang, who's pretty regularly here with us. You know, I've made a number of friendships who I talk to still kind of regularly through various means, right? And I think that's the beauty of small shows. You get an opportunity to make some friendships, to hang out, to talk, to just chill and be surrounded by other fellow geeks who love the same hobby in probably a different way than you do, right? It's like, I'm probably one of only 2 rainbow fish psychos that was in that room. But we've got shrimp people, we've got placo people, we've got Corridora people, we got cichlid people, and we're all there just chilling out. Geek boy, anything but the geeks. Sir? Sir? Oh, man. By the way, at any time, at Bentley Pasco, if you got a question, slam in a chat, all right? It's going to be a little free form this evening. If my brain keeps being unable to speak the English language, we might have to end this bad boy early. I don't know. Good Lord. Wait. It's not like Comic-Con in San Diego. Yeah. Dude, it's so funny. I used to go to what is now known as Emerald City Comic-Con when I was a kid. I used to be a vendor at Comic-Con in Seattle. And before it became what it is now, where now it's this huge, sprawling, crazy thing. It was held in like these little side buildings that are near Seattle Center, right? Near the Space Needle, basically. And for those in the Seattle area, you probably actually know what I'm talking about. You've probably been to something in those little tiny buildings that are out there in a little strip. And they're basically like, think like the little hall rooms that are in a lot of hotels, and they are connected. There's a series of rooms, and they're all kind of connected so that depending on how big your event is, you could just rent out multiple rooms and open up the partition between them to connect them. But I remember when, like, the Seattle Comic-Con, before it was ever even called Emerald City Comic-Con, was in these little things, and they were tiny. It was like there might have been 300 people coming through the door total. And that included the vendors. And I guess it's one of those things where, like, when I was a kid with my other hobbies, I got really accustomed to how cool the feeling is of, like, small conventions and small shows, that when I go to, like, as an example, a couple of years ago, I took my wife and brother-in-law James to SakuraCon, which is a huge anime festival. It's the biggest one in Seattle, but it's actually fairly large as far as the number of anime festivals across the country. It's one of the bigger ones. And I can remember when it was not even called SakuraCon, and it was like 50 people. It was like tiny, but it was like literally held in a hotel in Bellevue, but it was super fun, right? And I think it's one of those things that I've gotten so spoiled, maybe that's the right word, by the experience of small shows where I actually get to, like, sit and talk with people, that the big shows almost lose any interest. Now, granted, I want to eventually go to an Aquashella. I don't think I'm going to do it maybe in 2025. It'll depend. To answer your question, Bob Purcell, any shows coming up? Just FishtoberFest for right now. Just between the last 2 years of basically, like, eating layoffs and watching, like, every ounce of savings I have get, like, blown up in smoke. I have to get back to, like, stable, if that makes sense. So once I get back to where I feel like things are stable and normal, I'll look at scheduling some other show. I'm sure, like, Scotty's probably going to yell at me to go to Keystone Clash again. But, I kind of want to do at least one Aquashella, and I think if I was going to do one, it would be whichever one is not in the middle of the most fireball death summer portion of the year. Because what is it, like Texas? They schedule in like July or something, and it's just like, nah, man. I don't care if I'm going to be indoors all day. No, no. Just can't take that knowledge that eventually I have to walk out in that kind of heat death. I don't know if that's going to work. Even though I think Texas is maybe the most interesting locational wise, in the sense of it gets to an area where I haven't been close to for a fish event and can meet people that I haven't met before, in theory. Big quotation marks around. Big quotation, because who knows? A lot of fish nerds love to travel, and it's kind of sweet. Wei Ming. My family and I went to the Final Fantasy Fan Festival. So I went to two of the Final Fantasy 14 fan festivals, the first two in Vegas. And because they were both in November, well, no, one was October, one was November. They were great because it was like tops 80 degrees outside, but it was like warm and relaxing, and it's not the like super high level of tourists. So it's actually not just like jammed to the gills everywhere. And not that it was like I was doing anything other than the fan festival. The fan festival was super fun, but got to meet nerds that I've played a video game with. Yeah, it was interesting. It was good times. But yeah. Steven, it's because I scheduled it and then almost immediately went live because I got home at like 6 p.m. on the dot my time. And yeah, like ran upstairs and started putting things together. So there's that. I mean, it's part of it is that. The other thing would be if there's ever a fish convention in Louisville again, I will just go. So convince your festival of choice to hold something in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll go. But a lot of that's because like I've got a really good friend out there that I want to go see again. And also, there's other things out there. The brown water, if you will. Paul Sotero, come to Raleigh next spring for CAW. They're trying to get Doc Awesome on the speakers list. That's pretty cool. It'll depend. I mean, the biggest thing is, for me, as far as traveling is concerned, I got to get back to a certain semblance of normal with, my job stability and all those kind of things. I'm yelling at you to go to Keystone Clash again. or Jeremy will yell at me. But yeah, I think when I get back to feeling like less like I'm teetering on a knife's edge as far as like having at least some semblance of savings and not feeling like I'm just doing kind of twitching at all times. My industry is going through it right now, and it is unnerving. Like Microsoft just laid off another 2,500 people today, and my former employer Amazon is doing all sorts of nonsense still. It's just like you see all that stuff, and you kind of like, it makes you worry. But yeah. I wonder if the clubs will ever come together again for another Triple Crown. I don't know if they're going to do another Triple Crown because they kind of executed it really poorly, if I'm going to be honest. In the sense of, it was a great idea. Let's bring everybody together. And then it was like, okay, each individual team is going to plan their thing, and nobody's going to talk to each other the whole freaking time. And it's like, all you had to do was communicate and use one place to register everyone, not register at like 4 different places. And then you just have a selector that says like, which one are you representing? And you select that. And that credits the appropriate organization. And I don't think they really had a lot of tech people working for them, so that might have been it. They don't have too many tech nerds, or I don't know what it was, but I would love to see more combo organizations do their conventions together, because I think a lot of the problem for some people, like me especially, right, is that there's so many freaking conventions. There are so many freaking conventions. Like, cool, which one do I pick? Because you're gonna have a lot of people like, oh, go to like the ACC or the ACA or the this or the that, and it's like, cool. There are so many of these clubs that are really specific to one thing. And if you're not into that thing, it's like hard to want to go, even though part of you is like, I just kind of wonder what it's like. Like Cataclysm. I'm not a big catfish head. Like, I like having plecos and I love corridoras, but I don't breed them. So speakers probably aren't interesting to me. I kind of barely keep them. They're kind of like a side attraction. And like the club I'm a part of, ANGFA, Australia New Guinea Fishes Association, they've only had one convention in North America in like 20 years. And the one at Triple Crown barely counts. I mean, it does. So I guess two, because I had the one up in Toronto recently. But still, it's like, I'm part of an organization in the sense of part of or fan of. It fits the fish I like to keep. I don't know. English is a thing. Uh, that's so like niche and tiny. They're like, well, if we do a convention every 10 years, that's pretty good. Good Lord. At least like Cataclysm is reliable every year, and I hear it's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Clash is one of the ones that does it the best. Just to be honest, my experience there was amazing, and it's a bunch of clubs all coming together. It's mostly driven by two clubs, but I think lots of places could learn from that. And then you've got like the really big trade shows, that are almost too big. Like Aquashella and stuff, where they're just so big and it's so many people. It's kind of like, I don't know that I'm gonna be able to do what I like to do, which is like be more chill. And more importantly, maybe there's that part of me that's like, well, it's so big, I don't know that I can like, I don't got the clout to like get any kind of premium area to chill out in. I don't mean like something ridiculous. I just mean like, if you had a YouTube speaker booth, I don't think I'm the person that's in that group. I think it's people well above me. I think the threshold, like bare minimum, is probably like Tazawa Tanks, right? Where it's like, how many subscribers you got? Doing pretty good. I got 25K. And I have 6 digits. Nah, get out of here. Oh man, is there a Loach convention? I don't know if there is. I want a Loach convention. I judged a Loach category at Keystone Clash. Yeah. I had no clue what I was doing, but I acted like I did. I left like super positive comments on like every Loach because they were all like really nice fish. They were all like really healthy, good body size, pattern for what they were. That was probably too nice. Kelly Foreman shows herself. Have you been to an Aquashella? No, I have not. No, I have not. Fight about it? No, I haven't gone yet. The appeal of Aquashella is kind of low to me because it's such a big F-all convention. You know what I'm saying? I like the small ones because I get to sit and talk with people more easily. It's more enjoyable that way. That's just me. I'm spoiled from my childhood when I went to all these things that are massive, and I was like, the example I go back to is like when I went to what used to be the Seattle Comic-Con, that's now Emerald City Comic-Con, when it was super tiny. I remember Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane being there. And for those of you who are not into comics at all, those are two of the most iconic artists in like the 90s Marvel era. So like all of the Spider-Man in like crazy positions that is like normal now in the way that you see Spider-Man being crazy athletic in movies. That's all because of Todd McFarlane. Or like all the like really amazing artwork of like Wolverine and stuff like that. That's all Jim Lee. They went on to make Image Comics, and Image, that's where like Spawn comes from, and there's a number of other ones. Spawn's probably the most popular one that everybody knows about. Early on, when Image was first starting, they hit the convention circuit really hard. Now, granted, they already hit the convention circuit a lot because they were super famous from their time at Marvel. But I remember going there and being in line, and the line was like 15 people. And as a kid, I got to sit and just talk with like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane for like half an hour while they're signing autographs for other people. Just sit and talk with them. And as a kid who was into comic books at the time, that was amazing because those guys were like my heroes because of how amazing their art was. And I think like that kind of mentality on conventions has spoiled me to where like I look at big conventions and I'm like, Also, most of the draws at the big conventions are people I already know. You know? Ah, dude, there you go. Way Mignos, Rob Liefeld, and Mark Silvestri. The kind of like the Fantastic Four of the Marvel resurgence, if you will. Those guys, all those guys are amazing. I didn't ever got to meet Rob or Mark in person, but Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, they're some of the nicest people in the world. They're so nice. At least they were to me when I was a kid. So it might be different now. But yeah. I think you'd be surprised about Aquashell. I found it very easy to sit and talk at the one in Chicago. Okay. I've seen some of like some might say horror story videos of like how bad the lines are and like waiting to get in and all that just seems like not my bag of tea, you know? But yeah. Dr. Baz! I'm looking forward to seeing you speak. Do you know what time your talk is and day? Are you Saturday or Sunday? I don't know how they split everything up, but I might plan my travel plans solely around when your talk is. No pressure. No pressure. If you go as a creator, you enter through the back door. Literally. Well, that's presumptive. No, I'm just... All right. I mean, I don't know. I guess. The thing is, like, Aquashella is so kind of cagey about information as far as I know, so I don't know any of these things, so I'm just like, eh. Only way. I want some artists to make rainbow fish art that can change from relaxed colors to excited colors depending on the angle you view the art from. Oh yeah, so like the I can't remember what they call them. There's a specific name for that type of art, and it's done on a specific type of media where depending on the angle it changes what it looks like. You see that they did this for sports cards in the 90s for a while. They're actually really cool. Saturday is your talk. Do you know what time, Dr. Maz? I've been debating whether I'm trying to find a way to come down Friday night and be like dead to the world because I'll get there so late, or whether I want to try to drive down early Saturday morning and like stay the night Sunday and then leave Sunday morning to come home. I'm trying to figure my booking, if you will, because I'm kind of only there for a day. Thank you. Yeah. Let me know. Oh, so like this, like even when the streams are chill like this, I kind of like them more because we get to have this more like open conversation between us, and it can be totally not fish related in some cases, where I keep segueing off to babbling about comic books and being a kid and weird stuff that has nothing to do with fish. Oh man! All right, let me see. Gotta be something else I missed. The one guy that loves to drive through my neighborhood with the loudest exhaust known to man, but it doesn't actually give him any performance. Johnny Best, off-topic question. I can't keep my Sawasser Tang moss healthy. All every moss I've had, empty cube, tank. I was hoping to just put the Sawasser Tank alone, free floating. So where I've had the most success with Sawasser Tank is this. Almost no light. I have found that yeah, you basically have it like free because once it gets to a reasonable sized mass, it kind of falls down and sits on its own. At very limited water flow, so like a sponge filter, right? And then barely any light. That's the kind of tank that like I almost would do no actual light over the top. It's just getting ambient light from the rest of the room. And the last time I did that in a tank, my Sawasser tank grew like crazy, and I had more than I ever knew what to do with. Anytime I put it under any reasonable amount of light, I struggle with it. And I don't know whether it's like because of the natural conditions I keep in a higher light tank where I have more nutrients present and things like that, or if it is like it just doesn't like a lot of light and it actually prefers being in effectively almost no light. And I'm talking like if you were doing a par reading, you'd be at like 5. Like almost nothing, right? Really low amounts of light. That's where I've had the most success with Sawasser Tang. It's certainly not scientifically valid information, but it's what works for me. So do what you will with that. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. Make sure to mix something else. Zen Ginger, I wanted to go to the big fish deal back in the day. I'd hope they bring that one back also. Yeah, there's a number of conventions that have kind of disappeared. Like the old aquatic experience no longer exists. The big fish deal. I will say that the one not necessarily like convention that I want to go to is the Quad City Fish Swap. I've seen so many videos of like how massive that thing is, and I kind of just want to be able to go once because of how ridiculous that thing looks. And to maybe more properly document the experience for those that can't go, like me. Because I've seen videos from like my buddy Tom from TM Aquatics when he's running a booth, and he's kind of doing a quick pan, but most of the time he's selling fish, right? I want to more like walk around and like really get a feel for just how insane that thing is. Because anything I've seen from it, it seems like it's the most massive swap meet known to man in the fish world. And that sounds right up my alley. Even though I would not bring anything with me or probably take anything home. I think it's just like, I love walking around and seeing like what breeders and stuff shows up. Because I always get surprised by something. And like an example would be at Keystone Clash, right? Mike's Bulgarian Greens, his Angels. Those are the things that like, they're so burned into my head. Despite meeting so many wonderful people, getting to make new, like, proper friendships, things like that. Those fish that Paul Soltero took a version of home, he had his seal points, are just burned into my head because they were so cool. And I will not ever forget that guy's business. Or business might be a quotation marks. He just breeds them because he loves them. But, he runs some stuff on Facebook and things. And it's like, I'll never forget that. Because those fish stood out so amazingly in my head as something different and interesting. And while I love angelfish, I'm not that person who normally chases after like crazy color forms of angels at all. I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll keep one kind. I like my Leopoldis a lot. I'll just keep those. But now I'm like, those greens are really nice looking. Might want those someday. It's like stuff like that, right? There's always something that sticks out when you see a bunch of vendors who bring like the things that they're super passionate about and you get to sit and talk with them. It's always interesting. Always interesting. Hector Lara, what percentage of aquatic plants sold nationwide die within 2 weeks of being purchased? And if you lowered this percent to 0, would that be a net positive for the aquatic industry? So I would guess that the percent that die is probably less than we might think. And what I mean by this is, I think a lot of people throw out plants or assume they're dead when they're not actually dead. They're mid-transition. So if I had this story, I have to share this story because I think it's interesting. I think you people will have the same reaction I had. I was talking with Nick before we started filming, and he explained a customer he recently had a problem with, and that he was trying to help them, right? And they sent a video of a bag of shrimp, and all the shrimp are clawing onto the little netting that's in there, right? But he or she, the customer, is like moving the bag, and they're basically like not moving because they're clinging on because they're stressed. This person claimed that they were dead. They're not. You can tell they're alive. You can tell that shrimp are alive by color when you're, us, right? We're pretty used to this. Even somebody who's an idiot like me, who is not good with shrimp, can tell that like that shrimp is not dead. That shrimp is hanging on for dear life because it's stressed out of its mind. Maybe get it in a tank and let it relax. This person didn't even open the bag, didn't put them in a tank, nothing. Just threw them away, saying that they were dead. And the reason that I get to that is because, like, I can remember when I was coming back from the hobby where I had stems that had lost basically all of their leaves, and I assumed they were dead. And when I went to remove them, I can remember this really distinctly because small details on the dumbest stuff is stuff I'm really good at remembering. The stems weren't squishy. They were still solid. And for any of you who know what I'm talking about, that means it's still alive. It's just converting. And that the little foliage that was at the top is the fresh foliage, and I just needed to be more patient, right? I think there are a lot of people who might assume that their plants are dead when they're not, and might throw them out. So that leads to the number being higher than it probably actually should be. But I would guess that the percentage of plants lost is somewhere like 20%, maybe 25, which might seem like a small number. Maybe you think it's higher, and maybe you know better, Hector, because you're a little more close to that industry in the sense of the professional side. You've had a shop, unlike me. I'm just the idiot on the internet who likes stuff. But I think if we got it to the point of where there was no loss, would it be good for the industry? Yes and no. It would be great for all of the new hobbyists because they don't go through that stress of losing things. And that can often lead a lot of people to want to quit before they've gone through the trials and tribulations of learning enough knowledge to stabilize a tank relatively well, or understand the difference between a dead plant or a plant that's converting, or a plant that has a nutrient deficiency as opposed to is truly dying, right? But I think from a perspective of the part of the industry that is very reliant on continuously selling plants, I could think of like, I've talked to a number of people who've run stores, and they're like, I have X customer, and they come in every so often, whether it's once a month, every couple of weeks, whatever it may be, and they're always buying plants, and they only have like 2 tanks because they keep having troubles with their plants. But they won't give up. They just keep getting new ones. And I think to like, okay, what percentage of those people all of a sudden not buying plants over and over and over again, how does that impact a local store? How does that impact some of the farms, right? How does that impact, say, companies like Tropica or Florida Aquatic Nursery, some of these much larger companies that are reliant on farming lots of things? It becomes interesting. Now, I think you've got a great statement there. The reliance, and I specifically want to point out that word, on plants dying is the crux of the matter. I think the difference would be this. I think you would see more people interested in doing multiple planted tanks or more planted tanks if they didn't have as many losses. I think you would see a lot of people who might only have 1 tank move to, say, 2 or 3. Or maybe instead of having 1 small tank, they would want to try 1 big tank where you can get significantly more plant matter in it. Because, I'm not losing plants, so I'm not kind of constantly rotating things out. I can try things. Or maybe if you were having less struggles with plants, you would be more willing to try some of the more difficult plants and more difficult setups. And I think long-term, that can be very helpful for stores as well as just us hobbyists. I don't know if there's like a right answer. That's the thing. I have a feeling that the better we educate people on how to have success with plants, long term, that's better for the industry versus the, like that, as you so said, the reliance on plants dying being a necessity. But like certain plants are so finicky, they're gonna die. Eventually you're gonna screw something up and it's gonna get pissy and you're not gonna be able to recover. I think I like Crypt Pink Flamingo. It's one of those. That jerk. Lady Diane, good to see you. All right. Chat question. Do you ever get yellow fry from the Hawaiian blue Moscows? 1 tank of mine are producing yellow bodies, all of them female. They still get the blue tails and dorsals. So you're getting yellow bodies specifically on the females. I wouldn't ever say that I think my females are yellow. I mean, some of them do have a, like, instead of being silvery, they have a kind of very light yellowish gold blush to them. So I'd be really, if you can get a good picture of that, Lady Diane, I would love to see it, just so I can compare to what I see. When I think yellow, I think like Herbert Axelrod rainbow yellow, or like, Chilatharina Eleni Wapoga yellow. I think like bright yellow. Where I'm sure you know, that's not what you're not dealing with that. Because if you were, that would actually be really rad. Because all of a sudden you have these big blue bodied males and bright yellow females with blue finnage. That would make that species even cooler if you were to ask me. I'm sure some guppy purist would be like, no, that's ruining the genetics. I don't know. I keep a fish because I like it. And unfortunately with redfish, bluefish, like shutting down, I got to figure out another way to get my fish out into the world. I might work with Nick over at like Shrimpy Business. We'll see. Yeah, are they as yellow as like yellow labs? Because if that's the case, I don't know what you did, but I like it. But yeah, if you can shoot me a picture, I'd love to see it. I mean, I see some that can get a little darker, right? Where they tend to be a much more graphite-y gray, and then I have ones that are much more kind of gold blush every once in a while. And I just have such a big colony that I'm never worried about trying to separate them too hard because it's only in the females like you're seeing. But if it's like yellow, like you're saying, it's kind of cool. I won't lie, especially if you're not seeing any negative impact on the males. You know, if you're seeing the males still coming out fine, where they're basically all that nice dark blue. Occasionally they'll show that light skyish blue color. That's just something I've noticed that they do. It depends on their mood. And then typically they have that little flash of green in the tail. Be pretty sweet. I won't lie. That'd be interesting. Paul Cestero just sent you a video of the angelfish. Oh, well, thank you. I bet they're looking good. Because, I mean, you've had them for a while now. They got to be close to full-on adult size, yeah? Yeah? I would think. Oh, my lord. I have so many... Okay, I need to complain to you all for a moment. I need to vent. While I look at this video from Paul. Couldn't preview. Thanks, Google Chrome. Oh my lord, those look so good. Can I add this? Can I add a video? Maybe it's media source? I want to see if I can show everybody else. Yeah. Will you work? Please tell me it work. Ah! I did it. Look at that angel. Go back. Look at this. Look at the color on that thing. Look at the green on an angel. Oh. Oh. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. They're looking good, Paul. You did good work. Now you can seeing those, why they stuck in my head at Keystone Clash. And I was like, I might need those one day. Oh, okay, so let me vent briefly. Can I even get myself back? I think I just totally lost my train of thought. Just forgot about what I was going to vent about. That's my brain. I just got distracted by beautiful green angelfish, and any need to vent just went right out the window. I'll remember like 20 minutes from now, but obviously it wasn't that important. I have to laugh at the little things because, man, if I don't, whew. Right, can't be all that bad then. Absolutely, Lady Diane. Johnny Best, what are your top 3 or 5 aquarium type plants rarely preventing egg scatters from eating their eggs? Okay, so we want to prevent egg scatterers from getting to their eggs. and you want me to do a top X list, which I naturally hate. However, we can list a certain number of plants that I think are good at this. Mosses tend to be really good in the sense of if you do, there's like the small cup style that people do that put a bunch of moss in it. Like this is really popular, like celestial prodenos as an example. Like Lucas Bretz has done this. He's done something similar with like mops for his mascara barbs. Mosses work really well, especially like Christmas or Java moss. Java moss just because it's so much easier to get a hold of, and Christmas moss because it actually has a good density because of the way that it naturally sits. There's another newer moss out there called it's Calicostana probactiana. I think I've got that right. I'll look it up. I've grown it before, and it's actually a really cool moss. Son of a biscuit. Where is it? It's under that. It's under that. I've got to log in. I might have said the name a little wrong. Look at my search. Yeah, Calicostella probactiana. Really cool moss. Let me see if I can get a picture for you guys real fast. But it's because it kind of fluffs outward. And it's really common tissue culture right now. Take this from this website. Just going to wholesale steal this thing. That's totally not what I want to do. Oh, what are you doing? Advanced. Yeah, just go. This website is fine. Come. Okay, fine. I guess not. There. That'll work. Okay. Now we're gonna go over to here to my window capture. Look at this property real quick. Whoop. And we'll show it. Bang! There you go. But you see how it kind of pushes out a little bit and then makes this big kind of almost like a weeping willow in a way. Not quite like a willow moss, but this is another moss that's really interesting. It's a little newer, but it's actually fairly easy to grow. That I think is good for like egg scatterers if they're small eggs down low. Now, if you're talking like something like rainbow fish, right, where they tend to fire off their eggs a little higher in the water column, something like Cypress Healthfry is actually really good because it's a much more dense grass-like plant than something like Dwarf Sagittaria or any of the Vallisnerias. It gets a lot more dense, which is clean some of those tabs. No, sir. This is how I operate, all right? Listen, heathen. I work in tech, man. Like, having 8 billion tabs is normal for me. You should see me at work. I have, like, 6 different windows open with, like, 40 tabs in each one. And I operate them without fail. This is my life, man. This is how I operate. It's just how I am. I like keeping a lot of things open that I don't need. Yeah, you glance at your tabs, you realized you, too, should not be judging, lest ye be judged. Heard that was in a book somewhere. Anyway. And the only other thing I can think of is, this is probably going to sound weird, but you could, in theory, also use a really, really dense stem plant. And my example here would be some of the Pogostemon species. Let me see if I can find a good example. I mean, I know that I have pictures, but I don't want to go digging around when I can just look them up. There's like Pogostemon stellata. It's probably one of my favorite. Not octopus, but the stellata. And let me show you what I mean. There's also like Eustralis, which is window capture. Still looking at the right thing. Yes, it is. Cool. Put this back up. Boom. It's like this bad boy here that I got focused on from CO2 art. When you get this, now granted, to get the density where you get lots of leaves clustered together like that, as opposed to octopus where it kind of fans out a lot. Or like another example would be like this one here. You can see toward the top. This would be for your higher water egg scatterers. You usually need CO2 to pull this off. And one of the other plants that does this... Oh no, it's just escaped my brain. It looks very similar where it's got a green upper leaf and kind of a purplish underleaf. It's actually a pretty popular plant. Let me go into chat. I'm sure somebody's got it. It's like something Augustifolia. Right? Make sure I get the right one. No, that's Hygrophila Augustifolia. That's too big. There's another plant I'm trying to think of. The brain. No worky. Someone will know. And they'll be like, Bentley, you're dumb. It's this. But yeah. Anyway. What you want is a stem that has like really fine leaves that are fairly dense. And you can also do this with like Rotala or any of like the really needle leaf Rotalas. You just have to grow over like really dense forest of them. Because then when your fish like move in and out of them, it's dense enough to where it's very likely they will miss several things. So yeah. Anyway, those would be some of my suggestions. Look at plants like that. It depends on where in the water column the fish you're targeting tend to scatter their eggs. If they're like rainbows where they go higher in the water column or mid-water column, we would look at something that's more stem or grass-like. If they're going lower in the water column, that's where you'd start looking at things like your mosses or some other like kind of low-density plant. That would be options. Kambamba's another good one, actually. David's Aquatics, thank you. Not the one I'm thinking of. I've grown it before, so I guess I could go look at like all the bajillion plants I've grown. Because it's not. The other Rotala would be like Willicki eyes. That just came to my head, but it's not what I'm thinking of. Stem species that I should know. There's a bunch of different like Pokestamons that could probably fit the bill. Why am I not remembering that other species? Because it would have been one of my like earlier grown plants in the grand scheme of things. Hold on, now I'm just going through my entire like all the things I've grown list. I'm gonna figure this out because it's gonna drive me crazy if I don't. It's not a Hygrophila species. I'm going to find you. It's definitely not an Nymphaea, nor is it an Alternanthera. The Alternantheras just aren't dense enough. Oh, I found like my bunches and bunches and bunches of various cryptocarines when I grew like a million crypts all at the same time. I'm gonna find this thing because now I'm like, if I don't find it, Myriophyllum's another good one. That's not the one I'm thinking of though. Oh my lord, do I not have it in my? Did I never submit this plant? Because if I didn't submit this plant, that's kind of hilarious. Or I'm just like a total dope. We're gonna go with total dope. Can't remember. Limnophila aromatica. Thank you. Any of the limnophilas. They, with CO2, get really dense leaf structure. And they do really good. But yeah. Paul, I had no intention of buying angelfish, and then Bentley stepped in and was like, Paul, you gotta look at these things. I am an enabler. Put it that way. I find things that I like and I enable other people to buy them. Oh man. All right. Only way, I have some moss that's only starting to grow and spread on the surface of the aquarium glass. Can moss damage glass by growing inside the microscopic gaps in glass? I don't think so. I don't think it has enough um, depth in its structure that will dig in deep enough to cause problems. I think it's going to sit just at a very surface level. That is an interesting question. In theory, could it? Sure. Do I think that's likely? I don't think so. I don't think so. But yeah. Yeah. All right. Ah, you use a Chromebook at work, Johnny. That's why you need a manager better. Sure, that's fine. I mean, most of my workplaces, I at least have a reasonably powerful machine, so I don't have to care as much. All right. Alex Kumanov. Michael Steve Sturmer does a bang up job with the Bulgarians speaking as a Bulgarian. That's good to know. Good to know. I'm assuming that's Mike's Bulgarian Greens. Alec, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the guy I've met where the Bulgarian Greens came from that Paul has, and they're beautiful fish. I mean, like, looking at that video, I'm going to play it one more time. I don't care. We're doing this again. Look at this thing. Look at these guys. Look at that boy up front. So good. So good. Woo. Neo Veritas, enable me to buy a cool goby. I mean, a lot of the gobies are cool. I actually just like the generic, like, neon blue, or blue neon, whatever they are. One of those, yeah. I like those ones quite a lot, actually. I think they're cool. I just don't keep a tank where gobies would be successful. Yeah. No, I don't think they're albinos. I think some of them you get some that stay whiter. Paul can probably speak otherwise. I don't know the full mixture of what is in his tanks, but the green who's right up front is just like so choice. Wei Ming, do you keep African cichlids? No, not currently. I have in the past, only one. My aunt actually used to be a like really huge African cichlid keeper, as far as the rift lakes are concerned. Now, what I love is all the alternative cribs. So not Pelvicochromis pulcher, but Pelvicochromis tenuatus or tenuatus. It depends on how you want to pronounce it. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong both times because that would make sense. But I love the tenuatus a lot. I used to have the ones from Bipindi, which, each of the catch locations, you don't have super huge color differentiations until you get like the Nigerian reds as an example, is one of the really specific ones where you get way different coloration. But I just like the fact that basically the female's whole body turns purple, which doesn't usually happen on the pulchers. The pulchers get like that nice belly purple, right? Whereas, my female basically was like purple with gold yellow stripes when she was in full courting dress, and it was just like, you look like a saltwater fish, and it's great. I love them. I like them more into the pistos, actually. And I know that's probably blasphemy to some of you South American cichlid keepers or pisto keepers. But yeah, I like them more than the pistos. Maybe that's because it's the females that do the courting, and I love the like little shimmy and shake dance that they do to like basically force the males where they want them to go. I think it's just great. And it's like it's kind of like the opposite but same thing as rainbows, because it's the males that sit there and they do the little like, twerk shake dance thing. Yeah. Most of them are seal points. The one you're drooling over is the only one Mike sent me that went dark. So there you go. Most of the seal points stay that lighter color. That one that is dark though looks oh it looks so good. It looks so good. Anyway, gang, we're a little bit over. Surprise, surprise. I started late, though, so it's fine. I want to thank you all for being here. I hope to see some of you at FishtoberFest, especially for those who are near the area. If you can make it, I would love to just sit and talk to you, because that's what I'm there to do. I'm mostly there to BS with people. That's my fun, is just meeting people, having chats, making those proper, friendly, in-person connections. Like I have with Hector or John Epson or Luke Wang. Although I know Luke's not here. Dr. Mazerall, right? Just hopefully get to see you. And if not, maybe we have to put up a poll of like what convention should I go to next. Hopefully I can go to one next year. Hopefully life goes back to normal and stays stable and I can do those fun fish things again. Anyway, gang, I want to thank you all so much for being here, for chatting, for having fun, for dealing with my brain not functioning. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. And stay awesome. I almost feel like I needed, instead of my video, just play those angels one more time. They were so good.